Hi, my name is Annie the Multiversal Librarian, and my goal is to learn all about the many stories of Magic the Gathering. Some of the first books I remember reading as a child are a group of books from the Witch series. They follow a group of 5 witches across a multiverse of their own, traveling across various worlds and helping to solve the problems on them, as well as problems within themselves. These books hold a special place in my heart, as they are one of the most important connections to womanhood I've had early on in my childhood. You can imagine my excitement when I found out that my favorite card game is going to have its own brand new book, following a group of 5 magical students across the multiverse, resolving both external and internal conflicts respectively. I, however, don't think it's even possible to imagine my excitement when I found out that this book has what has soon become one of my favorite trans characters of all time. I got genuinely emotional reading this novel and seeing how sensibly this character is portrayed, which got me thinking, what makes a good trans character? What differentiates this one from all the other ones I've seen? What makes him as amazing as he is? Today we are talking about Segante, and boy, it's a good thing I brought all these islands with me, because I'm about to gush over this man for the foreseeable future. Let's go.
I have no idea what I'm supposed to be watching out for.
I'll help.
Says Kakuya, stepping up on Eula's other side.
I have the handbook, even if it's outdated, and all of Grandfather's stories. Although I doubt we're gonna be sitting down for tea with planeswalkers, or phasing entire continents into time distortions, so they won't be all that useful to us.
One of the main things I appreciate about the Omens of Chaos story is that it is not a spectacle. It features a moderately world-ending plot, but that is mostly relegated to the background to give more space to the student life on Arcavios at Strixhaven University. Thanks to the Omen Pass, anyone can now walk the planes. This allows for the first transplanar exchange students since the Kenworth twins to arrive at Strixhaven. These students come from 5 different planes, each of them its own conditions and ways of life. To establish this, the book builds out the background of each character very well. We get an insight into each of their cultures, and Seanan and McGuire seems to have really thought out the details. The main character, Eula Blue, is a rich human from the city of New Capenna, where she and her family fell from grace during the Phyrexian invasion. She now has to share a small apartment with her parents and siblings, and work with the Riveteers on construction. She originally wishes for nothing more than to join the Obscura, the family which she feels really appreciate her talents and help her get out of her current social status. However, seeing other planes makes her question Capenna and society. To me, this is illustrated best when she finds out that other planes don't require tolls for people to pass through the Omen Paths. She finds it strange that someone from Chandelar could end up on Capenna and suddenly be expected to pay a toll on the way back. To even pay that toll with a currency they obviously have no knowledge of. Alondra is a merfolk from Chandelar. She is the daughter of Tolerant Sky Summoner. She struggles with anxiety, for which she has an emotional support drake, Orestes, which as far as I'm concerned is sick as fuck. As far as I'm concerned, the one thing Tolerant does is he makes drakes. If I'm his daughter and I need an emotional support companion, you best believe I'm getting a drake. It's awesome. This detail is also relevant in the book because it introduces us to the importance of support animals on Strixhaven. The former Dominarian planeswalker Liliana Vest says that there are actually very few students who don't rely on them. Kikuya Akosa is a character whose surname you might recognize. She is one of the granddaughters of Teferi Akosa, the timeliest planeswalker. She goes to Strixhaven in spite of the fact that she is highly desired at the Tolarian Academy. Rather ironically. What? You want me at the school where my grandfather got frozen in time for 10 years and got burned the whole time? Also the academy which exploded and distorted time and space twice and killed hundreds of students in the process? Awesome, sign me up. Apart from that, Kikuya also has an interesting link to one of the larger themes of the story, the Phyrexian invasion. As she is a Dominarian, she originates from the same plane that the Phyrexians do. Yes, Phyrexians originate from Dominaria. If you'd like to learn more about that, it would be a shame if someone made an hour-long video detailing the history of it. That would be really bad if that happened. It's no such thing exists, and you definitely shouldn't go looking for it. Lastly, Jamira is a minotaur who lost her entire world, Aaron Zor, to the Phyrexian invasion. Her invitation to Strixhaven creates a very interesting conflict for her. She is supposed to come to terms with and use the Omen paths, even though her father, Angrath, left her and her family because he could walk the plains. An interesting detail is that on Aaron Zor, the Minotaur would wear ornaments in their horns which signal their social status. For example, Jamira's horns signal that she is a master blacksmith, that she is not looking for a relationship, but if she were, she prefers the company of women. I prefer this style of storytelling to a lot of the more spectacle-driven books in Magic's history. A part of the reason is that Magic currently doesn't have the best track record of handling those, but it goes beyond that. The best part of reading a book for me is getting invested in the characters. It's difficult for me to get invested in the fate of a completely foreign world if I don't care about anyone on said world. In Omens of Chaos, I actually got so invested in the little details of each of the characters. The magical battles themselves were kind of the least interesting part of the novel. The book still offers a lot of Vorthos content as well. Each of the characters, apart from Eula, is already a link to the greater Magic story through their family. Through the details of their characters, we get to learn a lot about their home planes. As someone who is interested in Magic's history, Jamira is one of the last characters who can faithfully describe Aaron Zor to me. Omens of Chaos still teaches us a lot about the world of Magic, but Seanan McGuire hasn't allowed that to stop her from giving us some truly well-developed characters. I could do a deep dive on each of them, trying to understand them and their motivations fully. For now, I'm only going to do so with the one character that I haven't mentioned yet. Segante.
You're my off-plane students, right?
She asks.
Oh, please tell me I didn't just scare the sanity out of a bunch of locals. I'm only supposed to terrify the incomers who've been assigned to me.
Says Eula. To her surprise, it's Segante who steps forward, bowing to the stranger.
If we're unique as a grouping, then yes, you found us. If we're not, I'm sure you've still found the best of the lot, and you should count yourself lucky for it.
You know Silverquill won't take you until your second year, right?
Asked the stranger. Segante blinks at her.
That's the College of Eloquence and Debate.
Says Kakuya.
Diplomacy.
Ah, they won't have me at all then. I know how to flatter, because I didn't want to die, and my aunt would view the absence of flattery as a request for a quick execution. Learning diplomacy wouldn't suit me at all.
"2018's Girl" is the worst film I have ever seen. It follows the story of a young ballet dancer, Lara. The main conflict of the film is that Lara is transgender, and this obviously creates some difficulties for her, both among her classmates and in her personal life. This is something I don't have an issue with in concept. Being trans has definitely caused some conflict in my life, and to see that on a big screen could have been really empowering. The issue is, this is pretty much the only conflict in the entire film. Every aspect of Lara's life is dictated by being transgender. Her struggles with ballet, her confusing love life, her relationship with her father, all of these things are only ever seen through the optics of her being trans. There is a scene in the film where she checks herself in the mirror and is dissatisfied with how hormone replacement therapy is affecting her. It's actually one of the more relatable scenes in the film. I mean, I'd also feel bad about being flat if I was this much of a two-dimensional character. Jesus. The issue with portraying transgender characters in this way is that even if we are not being portrayed in a decidedly bad light, it still lets being trans define us. It reminds me of why calling someone something like a trans or the transgender is seen as offensive. Yes, being trans is a part of my experience, but I am so much more. I am an artist, a friend, a lover, and if all these things get overshadowed by diagnoses I have, that is extremely dehumanizing. Segante is an antithesis to this, mostly by the virtue of being an incredibly well-developed character. There is a lot to explore with Segante apart from him being trans. He is the nephew of Queen Marchesa. Yes, that Queen Marchesa, and as a result is used to the kinds of conspiracies that happen on Fiora. Being both a member of the royal family and a very gifted sorcerer, there are attempts to exploit him from a very young age. The reason his father sent him off to Strixhaven was actually so that no one would try and take advantage of him again. A big part of his character arc is him learning not to be afraid, that not everyone is out to get him. Which, if you've seen my videos on Zansha or Nebula, you'll know is my favorite character trope in all of fantasy and fills me with gooby joy. Segante is also described by Seanan McGuire as culturally asshole. He is very cold and borderline aggressive in regular interactions. He doesn't believe in kindness for kindness' sake. He essentially sees all friendship as transactional. Even when he asks the main character Eula for help, he insists on paying her, for his own comfort more so than hers. When they first meet on Fiora, some highwaymen actually try to deny them passage through the Omen paths, and Segante just straight up gets out of a cart and kills them. It can be seen as an act of self-defense, especially with how dangerous a plane Fiora is, but like, it's still one hell of a thing to do. Sometimes baby girl is just a fully grown man with murderous intentions. And that's okay. This once again makes him a very good piece of representation. Being trans is often seen as something extra, like, we already accept this thing about you, we better not have anything else to accept. You are only seen as a man if you are straight. You are only seen as a woman if you are pink. You are only seen as non-binary if you fit my view of what androgyny is. I only respect you as long as you don't do anything else that goes out of my view of how society should be. A sentence I've grown quite fond of is, I don't just respect trans rights, I also respect trans wrongs. And to see a character be kind of an asshole without them being trans being tied to it in any way is in a strange way very validating. There are other little tidbits about him that add a bit of character. He likes to arrange flowers, actually sees it as extremely culturally important, he cares for pets, and he's also a bit spoiled as a member of the royal family. I don't want anyone watching to get the impression that I'm only interested in Segante because he is trans. Yes, I want to talk about him because of it, because I think it's important to acknowledge good representation when it occurs, but there is a lot to appreciate about Segante before I even begin to think about him as a trans person. Still, him being trans is still undoubtedly there, and it's a good thing I got this gush in my hand, because now we're going to talk about the importance of subtlety. He stumbles as the wheels at a dip in the road, and Eula scoots herself and her back to the side, motioning for him to take the other half of the bench. He eyes her warily as he does exactly that, clearly questioning her motivations, and she smiles at him, as wide and open as she can manage.
I'm Eula.
She says.
This is Alondra and Orestes.
The merfolk girl waves at the sound of her name and indicates the Drake at the sound of his. She doesn't speak, apparently trusting Eula to handle this part. That's fine. You don't make inroads with the snobs in Park Heights without learning to handle yourself.
And you are?
The boy continues to watch her warily. Unlike Calandra, he's skinny rather than slender, thin enough for her to see the bones of his wrists under his lace cuffs. Eula suspects half his bulk comes from the heavy velvet tabard he wears, in fashion with the other people she's seen on this plane so far. His hair is rough cut, messy, and black as spilled ink. His eyes are almost as dark, deep brown irises around black hole pupils. Meeting his eyes is like falling into a deep chasm in the earth, and Eula looks away before she can fall too far. She thinks he might be attractive. It's hard to say, with his eyes swallowing everything he looks at.
Segante.
He says, finally, and there's an air of newness to his name, like he's admitting it to the world for the first time. Maybe people in Fiora don't like to give their names? If everyone here is waiting for someone else to betray them, they may not want to hit out ways to target themselves. All About My Mother is a great example of a trans character done right. It is a movie which genuinely surprised me with its portrayal of trans people, as a movie from the 90s directed by a cis man, Pedro Almodovár. Agrado is a prostitute and a close friend of the main character, Manuela, proving that you don't have to put a character in a societally accepted role to still depict them respectfully. What makes Agrado work as a trans character is mostly her strong personality. When I think of Agrado, I don't think of a trans person. I think of a loud and funny lady who isn't as dumb as she likes to make herself out to be. I think of someone who strongly contributes to the themes of female togetherness and resilience in the film. Her being trans is still relevant in the film as well. In fact, she gives a speech to a theater audience about it, resulting in one of my favorite quotes in film ever. The fact that the film is dedicated to all the people who wish to be mothers, and that the director did not shy away to put that line next to a dedication to his own mother, shows a genuine level of both respect and understanding. Segante's transition, whilst nowhere near as in-your-face as Agrado's, is also still weaved into the book. It is done quite beautifully, showing the way being trans can impact one's everyday life. A particularly powerful moment for me was when he had to pay extra money to get a separate room in the student housing, as to not get put in a girls' room. This is something that I have experience with personally every time I have to look for student housing, actually. A really subtle bit of writing genius is when they meet Brisson, a Lorehold student who is tasked with getting them to Strixhaven. He begins to call each person by their name. Segante makes sure to introduce himself before his name can be said, however. This could be said to be just because of his general secretiveness, but as someone who has almost word for word had the same experience, I rate it as a fear of being dead-named, having someone use the name you've used before transitioning. I've given a lot of thought to what makes Segante click for me, and I've managed to narrow it down to a single sentence. His transgender reality is seen as equally regular as that of his cisgender classmates. Segante being trans is not written in for some kind of dramatic effect. For the most part, it's not relevant to the plot. It simply is. As a trans person, I would argue that the worst part of being trans actually isn't the gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria is bad, of course. It's painful and it makes life difficult, but it is something I can work on. I can find people who accept me. I can experiment with how I present myself. I can go through various treatments to make myself feel more at home in my body. What, however, is all the more painful because I feel like I have very little, if any, control over it, is that I don't think I'll ever feel fully accepted in society. I always have to feel somewhat afraid, and there truly is nothing that I can do to change that. I can make videos and I can be open with the people around me, but I can never change the whole world. And that is difficult to deal with. To see Segante simply exist as a trans man is beautiful to me. It doesn't make me feel seen as a hero or a fighter or trans woman, it makes me feel seen as a person. Segante's inclusion in the novel also makes hormone replacement therapy, binding, as well as gender-affirming surgery canon in the magic multiverse, which is both amazing and very tastefully depicted during his romance with Eula Blue. Segante doesn't know how to do his laundry, being as spoiled as he is by the life of royalty. As a result, he asks Eula Blue to help. She's very confused as to why he asked her to keep this so much of a secret, until she recognizes what is apparently the sort of uniform form of binders across Capenna and Fiora. This once again gives us a very beautiful moment of both emotional intimacy, but also helps build the trust between Eula and Segante in a very nice way. The romance between Eula and Segante is also written extremely well. Without getting too much into it, we get close enough to know that this man has a nipple piercing, and it's still depicted very respectfully, once again showing that it's not about what you show, but how you do it. As a bit of icing on the cake, Segante is genuinely stunning. They could have just made a trans-masked character and I would have been over the moon about it. However, I will say, just for personal reasons, I love that he is by far the hottest character in the entire novel. He already has a mask. His hair is a delicate domino that brings his face in filigree and calls attention to the his eyes are lashes, lips slightly parted. And now it's a good thing I got the subtlety in play, because now I can continue to be in flaring denial about my bisexuality. I get emotional talking about characters like Segante. Genuinely sensitive portrayals of trans people are difficult to come by. Even when we aren't portrayed in a decidedly bad light, we are often seen as more of a source of amusement than actual people. And because we are very much a minority, our voice on these issues often isn't heard as much as it should be. Because of this, I am very grateful to see as far as I'm aware, cisgender author take the time and make the effort to portray trans people genuinely and respectfully. In a perfect world, this would be the absolute standard, and we wouldn't need to be having this conversation. However, in a world where our rights are under attack, where we have to face harassment, and where our existence is under regular scrutiny and question, I'm extremely grateful for this kind of portrayal, which is why I love Segante. He is beautiful, and he is flawed. In a world where merely existing is an act of bravery, I could ask nothing more of him. Thank you. Thank you so much to Ashnod, Lane Kaplan, Tessie, and Vincent for voicing characters in this video. It would not be the same without them. Thank you also to all of my patrons, with a special thank you to my €10 patrons, Belle Eccentrique, and Black and Mild Enjoyer. If you would like to support me financially and get some cool perks back, head over to patreon.com/AnnieTemple11. There are exclusive behind-the-scenes updates, the music from all of my videos, as well as the occasional bonus video. Thank you. Hope you have a nice rest of your day.